Well, it looks like the president is going to be putting his support behind a criminal justice reform bill. And joining us now from our D.C. bureau is Jessica Smith. But Jessica, before we get into that, Republicans only have a few more weeks while they are in full control. What do they plan to get done before that happens?
Well, first, they need to keep the government open. They have to avoid a partial government shutdown on December 7th, and that means there will likely be a fight over the president's border wall and funding for that wall. They also need to agree on a farm bill. As you know, this is really important in your area. Congress failed to pass a new farm bill before the other one expired back in September, so they really need to get something done, come to an agreement before the end of the year, because that's what lawmakers tell me. That's when farmers will really start to feel the impact of not having that farm bill is the start of next year. So that's a top priority. Several senators also want to take up a bill to protect the Mueller investigation, but Majority Leader Mitch McConnell doesn't seem to think that's necessary, so we'll see if that comes up in the next couple of weeks.
And we're talking about this criminal justice reform bill. What's actually in that bill that the president is throwing his support behind?
Yeah, this is actually a really big deal, Eugene, because it's the first time in decades that criminal justice reform really has a shot. The president, and it seems most Democrats and Republicans are behind this bill. It's called the First Step Act, and what it would do, it would give prisoners more access to help prepare for their life after their sentences so they don't end up in prison again. It would also allow some well-behaved prisoners to get out of prison earlier, and then finally it would allow for more people who are arrested for drug crimes to be exempt from some harsh mandatory minimum sentencing. So we'll see if Majority Leader Mitch McConnell puts this bill on the floor before the end of the year. He was asked about that last week, and he said he wanted to see how much support there really was in the Senate, and then he also wanted to get the government funding issue and the farm bill taken care of first. So we'll be watching to see what happens.
You mentioned earlier about the farm bill, obviously, and how much of an impact that has on the Midwest. Also, another thing has been the tariff back and forth, that trade war between the U.S. and China. There was looking like some light could be coming out of that situation, and now you're saying not so much. What's the latest on those negotiations?
Right. Over the weekend, everyone was really watching the APEC, this meeting of world leaders. Vice President Mike Pence was there along with the Chinese president. So there was some hope that maybe there would be some progress in talks between the two countries, but it does not look that way. In their speeches, Pence and the Chinese president both kind of traded barbs with each other over trade. Pence said that China was doing unfair trade practices and stealing intellectual property from the U.S., and he threatened more tariffs. So that meeting ended without a joint statement, and the Canadian Prime Minister gave us some clarity on why. He said that trade disputes really did play a part in why there was no joint statement at the end of that meeting. So that's kind of a bad sign for trade negotiations, and now all eyes will be on the G20 in Argentina at the end of the month when the President Trump, and the Chinese president are set to meet again. So we'll see if any progress comes out of that meeting.
All right. As always, Jessica Smith from our D.C. bureau, thanks for joining us.